When I was younger, and even more naive and foolish than I am now, I thought that the whole world was just like the Midwest or my native state of Wisconsin. That everybody was just like us. And that if you have like an argument with your neighbor, maybe that grumpy old guy across the street whose little rat terrier is always yip, 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 yip. You just walk across the street, lean on his fence and say, "Hey neighbor, how's it going?" And just talk thing out, let him yell for a while or be grumpy for a while and smooth those ruffled feathers, and then the problem goes away. I thought all the world was like that. Then I got older. And I realized, you know what? The world is not quite like that. In fact, there are some serious whack jobs out there. People like Charles Taylor, who's like deploy an army of thugs to chop off the arms of people in his country to keep them from voting with their thumb, right? That kind of thing. So, in foreign affairs, the challenge becomes choosing which is a grouch and which is a whack job. Right? Makes sense. Take Saddam Hussein. Back in the days when Dick Cheney was running things for Ronald Reagan, you remember those halcyon days of great idealism, realpolitik on steroids? Cheney and his ilk would just sort of politely turn a blind eye to Saddam Hussein gassing 5,000 people in a village, the night before. Why? Well, because Saddam Hussein was our bitch. He was our bitch on the scene. Because just a few years before that, Khomeini fomented his little revolution next door in Iran and kicked out our little unsinkable aircraft carrier right there in the Middle East. So yes, Saddam Hussein said, "Sure, I'll be your bitch, and I'll just be the thorn in his side." And he was, and that was great for about 10 years. He kept, slaughtering the Kurds wholesale, and we just kept ignoring that. But you know what? Americans just really aren't that down on genocide when it comes right down to it. Have you noticed that? I've noticed that. And so when Saddam Hussein got just a little too greedy and started grabbing off large sections of Kuwait because he wanted their oil fields, suddenly America changed. Suddenly we realized, this guy's a bit of a wanker, actually, when it comes right down to it. So we invaded. And the man, W, and Cheney, again, who clearly didn't learn anything from LBJ's Vietnam experience, probably because they were both draft dodgers. They didn't learn that basic rule. When you break something, you buy it. So when he invaded and toppled Saddam Hussein off his throne, they broke the country in two, and we've been saddled with Iraq ever since. Yes. Not a very good example of choosing. Now, a positive example in history is not that long ago. Just 70 years ago, FDR. At that time, the America Firsters, or the MAGA folks of his generation, they were saying, "Oh, America first, we don't want anything to do with the world. Oh, come buy our milk, but then go away." And meanwhile, Hitler was trying to line up a fortress in Europe and shut all the gates so that they wouldn't buy our Iowa corn anymore. Well, that clearly got people's attention. It got FDR's attention. So he invaded, toppled Hitler from his throne, and things went back to normal. Engagement, choosing, grouch or whack job. It's important to know which. And to do that, you need to have a sense of history. You need to have a sense of the world, an instinctive feel. Now, Donald J. Trump is on the scene, and he tells us, he campaigns, "I'm a world traveler. I've been everywhere," except for Russia, of course. "I've been everywhere." And has he? Well, I figure he's gone from 5-star location to air-conditioned car to 5-star location to air-conditioned car to 5-star location. Basically whether it's Berlin or Cairo or Buenos Aires or Johannesburg or Paris or London, it's always the same aged beef steak with ketchup on the side and 2 scoops of ice cream, right? 5 stars, 5-star, no matter where you go, it's the same. No local color, really? Yeah, So we find thus he does his little capricious nonsense in places like Syria, and we find that it's not working out too well. He says, willy-nilly, "I'm just going to pull out." Maybe he's carrying Putin's water. Maybe he's Putin's bitch. Who knows? But he says, "We're pulling out because ISIS is dead." And then John Bolton trots on and says, "Well, not really quite dead. I mean, we'll pull out when things get better on the ground," and then lays out all the conditions, the exact conditions while we're there. And then Trump gets all pissy about it and says, nope, we're pulling out. So what is the sum effect? You know, for all W's mistakes, I would say I don't think he ever vacillated that much. And why is that important? Because they need to know, the whack jobs need to know that we know what we're doing. And when Donald J. Trump does things like that, when he gets capricious, when he just wakes up in the morning and turns on the boob tube and grabs a cheeseburger and shoves it in his mouth and treats foreign policy in the same way, people die. And that's what happened. In Mon Beach, that northern town, 3 U.S. soldiers died. Why? Because the whack jobs crawled out from underneath their rocks. A suicide bomber attacked them because we looked weak. We looked like we were vacillating. And that's what happens when you're a child in the Oval Office. Hey, Nancy, I hear you're still shopping for some impeachable offense. How about that one? He's got blood on his hands now. As for the rest of us, well, I say this. Light a candle for the dead. Pray for those still alive who are out there wearing our uniform, defending us. And while you're at it, pray for a new commander-in-chief.